So, papasok tayo na ngayon sa results and discussion. So, ito weird kasi there are certain, if you're writing up a paper, there are certain um, publications. For example, if you're writing a communication, so meaning it's an unformatted, it's just like a straight narrative. Ano? So, yung results and discussions mo combined. So, isang dire-diretso lang yan. But then, if you're writing a full article, minsan pinaghihiwalay nila yung results at saka yung discussion. So, dapat, klaro rin sa inyo, how would you actually write up your results kapag ganun yung requirement? Okay. Sagutin yung natin mamaya yung sagot ni Ma'am Ana about materials and methods. But then mabalik tayo dito. So yung results, this is a section that presents the study findings in a meaningful form. Hindi lang naman yung maglilista ka lang dyan ng number. So yung results section should summarize the data in a meaningful form. So meaning, you're also describing it, pero yung interpretation mo, dun pa yung papasok sa discussion. So, dapat klaro rin yun sa inyo. So, how do we summarize data in a meaningful form? So, we use tables and graphical summary of your data. We use images. If you're doing spectroscopy, then you also present the spectrum that you obtain. And then, yung summary na yan should also be followed by a brief statement of the results. So again, referring to the tables, your graphs, spectra, and images. So essentially, it's an overview or the highlight of those data. So, but then, yung sinabi kanina, no, paano po, ilalagay po ba natin lahat? So, ito naman po yung sinabi ko rin kanina, related and extraneous data can be presented in appendices. So lalo-lalo na if you're writing up a paper, hindi mo maiilagay lahat ng results doon. So again, yung key results lang din yung pwede mong ilagay, like an interest like of yung length of your article and yung space. Alright? So
Or
again,
supplements.
lagay nyo sa supplemental information. Alright? Okay, so ito again, dun sa example natin, we're synthesizing gold nanoparticles. So yung unang aspect na tinakal natin is, can we come up with a new synthesis method that will make it cheap? For example, so here what I am showing you is a tabulated comparison of yields and the selectivity of the sizes of gold nanoparticles that were formed depending on the synthesis method. So there are two synthesis methods used, like colloidal and hydrothermal. So colloidal use gold chloride and sodium citrate in the reaction, and then had the hydrothermal synthesis used gold, the acid form of gold chloride, and then you use an organic templating agent, which is, I think this is acetyl trimethyl ammonium chloride. And then dito pinakita ko ano ba yung yield. Hydrothermal 90%, 95%, colloidal 90%. Selectivity, mas selective yung colloidal versus the hydrothermal process. And then yung shape na nakuha mo is globular. Okay, so dito pa lang makikita na nila na between these two, colloidal method pala yung optimal. Mas nakuha mo yung size ng nanoparticles na tina-target mo. Though from a yields perspective, defensive siya. So defensive meaning inferior. Okay? And then after like the table, usually you use say a blurb talking about the highlights. So colloidal synthesis using gold-3 chloride and sodium citrate afforded a higher yield of 5 to 10 nanometer gold nanoparticles. So ganun siya. Alright? And then, second result, di ba sabi natin, like yung focus is yung size uniformity. So what you can also show them is the size distribution of gold nanoparticles. So may mga methods po on how to do that. So you can present it like in the form of a graph. So dito, you can also write up a blurb right after your summary saying that under optimal conditions, colloidal synthesis using gold-3 chloride and sodium citrate gave the highest yield of gold nanoparticles within the desired size range of 5 to 10 nanometers. I forgot to mention, or I may have missed out earlier as I was contextualizing the case study. So dito po pala sa ginawa kong example, we're comparing two different methods, hydrothermal and colloidal. So and it turns out, colloidal synthesis yung mas optimal. Alright? And then imaging. So you also have to present images. So you perform microscopy to better uh, to have a better idea of the shape. So you can present yung image din. Ito, this is not TEM or SEM image. This is just like, like a caricature lang din po of globular gold nanoparticle. So this is a screenshot, and then you can write up a blurb, like just briefly describing kung ano ba yung nakuha niyong result. So the synthesis of gold, using gold chloride and sodium citrate, produce globular gold nanoparticles. So ito yung galing sa ating colloidal synthesis. So usually po ganito lang yung ginagawa kapag magkahiwalay yung results and discussion. Now, ang question po is, paano pag pinagsama siya? So dapat i-merge nyo. Okay, but then let's talk about discussions. Discussion, so this is the section that presents the interpretation of the study results. So meaning, it states the study findings and their interpretation. So ito yung nakita ko, anong ibig niyang sabihin? Ito yung data ko, ito yung numero, or ito yung yield, bakit better yung yield dito kumpara dun sa hydrothermal? This is also, meron ako sinabi dito booster, no? So for you to be able to better contextualize your result, you have to be able to compare and contrast your learnings from related studies or reports. Ito na yung sinasabi ko na, again, kailangan nyo ng literature search as you write up your discussion. Again, literature search hindi lang sa review of literature, kahit sa pag-interpret ng data to write up a discussion, you can compare and contrast your result against others. And then the information from the review of literature that can help you in writing this up. So unang-una, to establish confidence in your results. In terms of uncertainties, sources of error. Meron bang binanggit yung ibang mga reports or ibang groups na, ay, when we did this, ito yung sources of error na nakita namin. No? So if you know of that, then alam mo na, ay, okay, chinek ko ba yun? Doon sa experiment ko? Or yun bang sa processing ng data ko, tinignan ko ba yung measurement uncertainty? Tama ba yung pagka-calculate ko? So that's how you leverage review other literature. Review of the literature also helps you support your study conclusions, no? Minsan po limited yung data natin, but then if it's consistent with yung data ng iba, pwede niyo din pong sabihin niyo na though yung samples ko dito limited, itong results na nakuha ko ay consistent with the observations of this group and this famous person in this field. So you can also do that. Reviewing the literature during the discussion drafting also helps you offer explanations for unexpected outcomes. So again, outside of what you did, kapag may nakita kang weird na result na hindi mo ma-explain, baka yung at wala ka ng time to further study it, baka yung explanation manggaling na lang by comparing it with what others had observed. And then most especially, highlighting the novelty of your results. Mas maganda ba to? Inferior ba yung result mo? Or did you come up with something that is original? Ayan.
May example ako dyan, Jeff.
Okay.
Oo. Kasi there was one study that I did. So, infection sa toenail. So, ang mga fungi na nagkukos ng infection are called dermatophytes. So, ang kanilang very distinctive na characteristic ay they are able to degrade keratin. So, merong 5 isolates na hindi namin malaman, hindi sila dermatophytes, pero nagkukos sila ng infection sa nail. So ngayon, tinest ko kung nagde-degrade sila ng keratin o hindi. Hindi sila nagde-degrade ng keratin. So paano sila nagkakaroon ng nagkukos ng infection? So dito na pumasok yung literature review. Tiningnan ko. In a very, very obscure paper, nakita ko na yung itong mga fungi na to, kasi ang keratin pala, hindi siya pure keratin. Meron siyang mga 20% na non-keratin. So yun pala ang inaatake ng fungi inaaral ko. So yun ang sinasabi ni Dr. Jeff na pwede mong gamitin yung literature, yung background, yung literature search mo para i-leverage mo or ano mo.
Yes, kasi po minsan you're gonna observe or you're gonna get results na talagang hindi, unless mag-spend ka ng significant amount of time or resources, saka mo lang ma-figure out. But
Yeah,
then you
it
can
didn't make
infer.
sense. Yeah.
You can infer. So again, so siguro hindi ganun ka-solid, siguro medyo weak yung conclusion mo doon, but then you can offer potential interpretations of that,
Mm.
leveraging what other people have observed. Ayan. So ayan. And that's also like in part, to be honest, it's also recognizing yung work ng iba. And it's part of building yung ganong community that okay, like we trust like what these people are doing. This is what they observe. So this can be a potential explanation to this.
Mhm.
Again. All right. So hindi kailangan tayo maging expert sa lahat. Ayan. So
Exactly.
sometimes the answer can come from what others have done already. All right. At babalik na naman ako doon. So kapag yung explanation sa inyong weird result or sa maganda yung result, kapag nanggaling yung context na yun sa solid body of work na more than 10 years ago, kapag hindi nyo titingnan yung mga ganun lumang literature, edi wala kayong explanation.
Yeah.
Naalala ko na naman, di ba po? Ayan. Alright, so bigay tayo ng example. So essentially we are comparing yung effectiveness ng colloidal and hydrothermal synthesis dito sa example na to. Pinakita natin yung yields at saka yung size distribution ng particles, no? And then yung pagkaka-describe natin dun sa result section ay colloidal synthesis using gold chloride and sodium citrate, nagbigay ng mas mataas na yield of the target 5 to 10 nanometer nanoparticle. So paano ba yung interpretation dyan? So dito ang sinabi, as an example, this observation is consistent with the study performed by the Mateo Group at Stanford University, where they employed both hydrothermal and colloidal synthesis methods in the preparation of palladium and silver nanoparticles. Colloidal synthesis allows for controlled growth of metal nanoparticles. And then, right there, nire-reference nyo yung work nung iba. Alright? So again, you did, like a subset of experiments. You had numbers indicating na, ay, mukhang mas maganda yung colloidal approach. But then you establish confidence in your result by looking out in the literature na, ay, meron palang professor doon sa Stanford University. Gumawa din siya ng related na study and consistent yung nakuha kong resulta or yung observation ko sa mga nagawa nila. So therefore, merong sense of validation na this is more likely a valid result. Alright. Okay, now, pagdating naman doon sa discussion ng nanoparticle size, so discuss natin kanina, pinakamaraming 5 to 10 nanometer nanoparticles na nabuo doon sa colloidal synthesis. So yung interpretation naman, or yung discussion section, ano ba yung mga sinulat ko dito? So efficient nanoparticle size growth, the size control was also demonstrated by the Onya group in the colloidal synthesis of gold nanoparticles using organothiols, so meaning gumamit ng ibang chemicals si JP. So this suggests that gold and silver nanoparticles undergo similar nucleation mechanism. So tandaan niyo po sa example ko kahapon na kaya tayo gumagawa ng gold nanoparticles kasi yung isang proponent nitong idea na to, he read up a paper saying that silver nanoparticles of 5 to 10 nanometer size na gawa nila using organic templates. So, in-apply nila dito and consistent yung nakuha nilang result. So again, there's only a limited number of experiments and conditions that one can actually explore during a study. But then again, you can breathe confidence in your to your result by citing what other people have done. So again, review of literature kahit sa discussion part. Alright, when it comes naman po sa pag-prove ng anti-cancer, so, ito naman sa imaging naman ito. So synthesis using the colloidal system form globular gold nanoparticle. So hindi spherical, hindi regular prism, but globular. So siguro spherical, we can also call it if you will. So ito yung sa discussion, pwede nyo isulat to kung meron kayong nabasa that says that though the Onya group reported similar size distribution, the use of organothiol reagents resulted in the formation of cubic gold nanoparticle. So this suggests the nature of the organic reducing agent affects nanoparticle growth mechanism. So ang ginamit ni JP na organic templating ay organothiol. Pero yung ginamit sa study na to ay sodium citrate. At yon ang reason kung bakit nagkaiba. Since iba yung organic templating agent ni JP, ang nakuha niya ay cubic. Ang nakuha ko sa study ko ay globular. At ang difference nun ay doon sa organic agent. So again, by reading up the literature, ma-figure out mo, ayun yung pinagkaiba. So therefore, baka kaya mag-iba yung shape kasi mag-iba yung chemicals na ginamit namin. Alright, so you're comparing and contrasting. So again, dito naman, hindi tayo nagsulat ng full-blown na discussion. Pinapakita ko lang po sa inyo how to present your data and summarize it in a meaningful form, how you can describe it, like highlighting the result, and then after that, offering, like a reasonable or a probable explanation to your observation. Ayan. Meron po ba kayong tanong? After this, pupunta tayo sa conclusion, and then actually patapos na tayo. We will more likely finish right on time. Unless gusto niyo po uli mag-Q&A. Alright. May question po ba? So question ni Ma'am Ana, is it suggested po ba that the procedure is written based in the standard procedure or based in how you conducted the procedure from the experiment? Actually, Ma'am, hindi ko po alam kung ano pong ibig sabihin ng standard procedure. Pero essentially po, an experimental method can be quite complex. So medyo mahirap po siguro siyang if it's a standard method. So write it up the way you did it. Yun po yung best way of pagsulat ng inyong materials and method kung paano nyo siya ginawa.
Pero depende din sa experiment mo, di ba?
Yes. So
Yeah.
if it's synthesis, then do it that way. Pero if it's siguro po parang yung generic na experimentation na may established methods, for example, DNA sequencing, then siguro po that follows a certain format. Lalo kapag standard method, doon napapasok yung standard method.
Katulad sa amin, yung susceptibility testing. Meron yung standard talaga na method na by CLSI ang tawag namin. Merong group of parang pathologists.
Okay.
Yun ang ipa-follow para lahat. Kung
standardized.
ano man yung result mo, you can be sure na it's the same as the other one.
Yan. So makikita nyo dito, so si Dr. Hiba, she's doing clinical studies, na meron talaga mga standard protocols and napaka-strict. Kami naman po ni JP, we do synthesis, so we get to design our own method. Kaya doon nagagaling din po yung sagot ko na, kung paano nyo siya ginawa, ganun mo siya isulat. Pero
parang yan, de novo,
yes.
new novel every time.
Yes, apo. Okay, alright. Okay, next question. In presenting po ng results, ano po ba ang required na method? Tables or graphs po ba muna tapos interpretation ng results? Yes, unahin niyo po yung data bago po ang interpretation. Kasi typically po, pag nagbabasa naman tayo, pababa di ba? Pababa tayo. So, pakita niyo muna yung data before yung interpretation. Kasi ang problema lang din po kasi dyan, pag inuna niyo yung discussion, nagkakaroon na ng bias sa utak. Hindi na masyadong i-interrogate ng mga tao or aaralin nila yung data mo. What you would want is to show them the data first. Kasi technically, ang dapat nangyayari po kasi pag nagbabasa sila ng study mo is ini-interpret nila yung data mo habang binabasa. And then pagdating doon sa discussion mo, ang goal ng mga magbabasa is, does this make sense? Ganon. So you should be writing your report up that way and that you are giving them the space for them to form their own interpretation of your data and then agree with your claims. Kasi that really is like scientific inquiry. You should be you should be providing space for them to question you if needed. Lalo-lalo na kapag may nakita silang weakness sa data mo. Yes. All right.
May question si Ma'am Ana.
I-move ko lang po ang aking panel. Okay, ano po ba dapat nasa table po for the result? Does this adhere to the research question? I am quite confused po then in giving the students the tips on how to present their observations from an experiment to the presentation. Highlight po the most critical data.
At saka din, yung doing it in table form,
Yes.
it gives clarity. Kasi pag minsan maraming masyado na, kung isusulat mo lang in a prose form, mahirap,
Yes.
mahirap.
Opo. And kasi po, if you're writing it in tabular form, you're also segregating your information.
Mm.
Na pag tumingin ako sa column na to, ito lang yung, it's only telling me one type of information. So, madali po sila mag-correlate. If you're tabulating it, ayun po, medyo wag po nating i-encourage yung mga estudyante na parang data dump na, ayun, nilista ko lang dyan. So, when we say meaningful form po, sa pag-present ng data, meaning you have also processed the data in such a way na in-arrange mo na siya in a way na pag tinignan siya ng magbabasa, ay nakikita nila, ay may trend, ay may pattern.
Yes,
Yun.
klaro.
Yun po yung ibig sabihin ng meaningful. You are making the trend visible and much easier to decipher. Pag nakita siya ng audience. Alright. Question na Sir Reggie, in writing the results and discussion, need po ba talaga na mag-present ng studies na contrasting yung results nila sa results ng study nyo? Or mas better na yung nagsusupport? Actually po, if you are to establish yung confidence sa ginagawa nyo, you should be presenting both sides.
Yeah.
Alam niyo po ba, kasi ayan, na-trigger ako. Hindi naman,
May example din ako dyan, Jeff.
kasi po, ang nangyayari po kasi dyan, Sir Reggie, if you don't present both sides, meaning, una, you're cherry picking. So, kung ano lang yung gusto mong makitang result, kung ano makita mo lang na gusto mong makitang related literature na nagsusupport dun sa expected result mo, yun lang yung gusto mong ipakita. Pero eto po yung caveat dyan. Kapag sobrang solid nung experiment mo, kapag sobrang solid ng data mo, kahit may contrasting review of literature, kapag reliable yung data mo, reproducible, then trust it. Kasi you did the experiment yourself. But then when it comes to offering an interpretation, you know that sa field na to, may dalawang contrasting observations. Itong group na to, ito yung result. Itong group na to, ito yung result. Itong result ko, consistent with this one. And I am confident with how I designed this experiment. So, ganun niyo po siya i-frame. Na, siguro, the way you say it is, the results that we gathered is more consistent with this one. And that's your conclusion. So, therefore, siguro, more likely, ito yung predominant na scenario. Ayan. And then also, like, upon doing that, usually po kasi just because merong weird na result, hindi mo naman po usually ma-attribute na mali sila. Baka may pinagkaiba lang din. Baka may subtle differences sa pagkakagawa nyo. And you also have to highlight that. Mamaya po yun, pag-uusapan natin sa pag-draw ng conclusion.
But in my case naman, so there was an article, binasa ko siya, tapos sabi ko, parang it didn't make sense to me. Kasi marami na din ako, in my line of work, marami akong nakikita na, this is what I see, but it's not what they're saying in their article. So ang ginawa ko, marami naman ako kasing isolates, ginawa ko rin yung study nila.
Yes,
Pero
yes.
nagdagdag ako. Halimbawa, isang gene marker lang yung ginamit nila. Sabi ko, how can they give that kind of conclusion kung isang gene marker lang? Parang kulang yata yun. So, ang ginawa ko siya uli, pero dinagdagan ko yung aking sample.
Yes, yes, yes.
Tapos nagdagdag ako ng genes na markers na ginawa.
Yes,
Tapos
yes.
ang nangyari, magkaiba nga, tama nga yung intuition, yung kutob ko, tama yun ko, hindi
Yes.
talaga nag-make sense. So ang nangyari, yung title ko in the end, naging re-evaluation na. So yun ang sinasabi natin din na yung title can change depende kung anong nagiging trend sa study mo at the end. Kung anong nangyari sa end, di ba?
Yes. And so yung nangyari kay Dr. Hibas, so meron siyang contrasting na outcome and then she did additional studies to challenge kung ano yung na-report na nung una. So gaya na sinabi ko kanina sa scientific communication, you have to clearly communicate kung ano yung ginawa mo kasi just because binasa yan ng readers doesn't mean na tatanggapin nila yan.
Totoo.
Pwede
It
yan
doesn't mean
mag-change.
na publish na siya na tama yon. You
Yes.
have to be very critical.
And alam niyo po, sa totoo lang, ang disadvantage nung hindi kayo magpe-pay attention dun sa contradicting na outcome is, paano ko yung contradicting na outcome na yun could also be used against what you did. Na hindi ka nag-pay attention, meron pala silang ginawang control experiment na hindi mo ginawa, baka sila pa yung mag-invalidate nung study mo or nung results mo. So therefore, dapat po balance yun. Pag may nakita kang, ay, hindi to kalinya, bakit? Dapat yun yung unang tatanungin mo, bakit? At anong pwede mong gawin? Alright?
Yun yung
Okay.
problema sa international community, Jeff. Kasi reputation mo masisira
Yes. Yes. Yun din naman yung challenge. Pero it comes with ito yung sinasabing it comes with the territory na if you are performing research as a career, it happens. It's gonna be part of your job. It's gonna be part of your life. People will not everyone will sabi nga nila, you cannot please everybody. Not everyone will believe you. Yeah.